Well, Therese, thank you so much again for coming back onto the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I am so happy to have you here for more ways than one. But before we dive into all of that, why don't I hand it over to you so you can obviously introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay. Well, my name is Therese Nicholas. Most people call me Terry, and I am the owner and founder of the Wealth Coach for Women located in the US, though I work with clients all over the world. And I specialize in helping high achieving women who are considering a big change. Usually they're thinking of leaving their corporate career because they're so busy doing all the things. They're overworked, overwhelmed, and uninspired. And these feelings are signs of burnout, and they are real. So I created the wealth coaching system to empower them so that they can create a life and career that they love by providing, I give them a customized step-by-step plan with one-to-one coaching. And I did this because I saw so many women, especially post-COVID, that were just didn't know where their life was going. They have
Yeah.
been spending so much time climbing the corporate ladder. They get to the top, they look around, and they don't even like the view anymore. And by helping them sort out what it is that they really love about their career, what it is that they would love to do more of, and what they'd like to eliminate, I've been able to help them either become entrepreneurs. Often they go into their own business by being either consultants or coaches. And very often, because they're so focused on doing what they love to do, they increase their income and decrease their work hours.
And I love that because the first time you and I met, obviously, we did the first episode together, referring to episode 41. And that topic was very much about how to create a positive money mindset. And this is where you said, obviously, this is the first time we met. And it was in January 2022. So 3 years ago, we were kind of like looking at that going, wow, has it really been that long? But
Yeah.
here's the thing, since that episode when we first met and we did the recording, so much has happened and there's been so many transitions for you as well. So tell us a little bit about where you were at that stage and what the transition is to where you are now with what it is that you're doing.
That's a great question. So in 2022, we were kind of on our way out of that tail end of COVID. I had my own practice. I owned a registered investment advisory firm, what we call an RIA, which is a fee-only company that for a fee, people would hire me to either manage their assets, write a financial plan, or both. And the part of that work that I did not enjoy was the asset management. I found that extremely stressful. But when you're in the financial services industry, that's almost a given that this is the work you're going to do. And at the time, I didn't realize that you could really like cut that out and just focus on something else. So I've really been going through my own personal transition. So when I work with the client, I'm walking the walk and talking the talk because I did a lot of deep work on myself during COVID and discovered what really did not make me happy, did not light me up, and at the same time realized what did. So it took me about 2 years to find a way to create a business around doing what I love to do.
And that's where you are now today.
That's where I
You've
am.
transitioned. You
I
are
have
that coach.
transitioned, and as of today, it's a complete 100% transition. As of next week, my 100% focus will be on coaching women.
Yeah. And this is where I just love your story. And I've seen your story so many times because you always talk about women who are particularly at that crossroads where they kind of go, I don't know where to go. And you kind of hit that crossroad yourself.
I
But
did.
because of your knowledge and because of where you were at, you know what it is that you have to do. And there's just a wealth of knowledge around that. And we're going to talk about a couple of those things here today. But I love your story. And I know you talk more about your story in your workshops as well, which we'll
Yes.
refer to a little bit later on. But let's talk about this because you always talk about, you share with people and teach people how to live a life of true wealth. Now,
Yes.
when I say that, people will go like, okay, yeah, maybe something I want. But from your perspective, what does that really mean to you? And what does that really mean to your clients?
Well, that's a great question, Henriette, because I know in some respects it does sound a little woo-woo and esoteric. But true wealth really represents the things that money can't buy.
Yeah.
So that feeling of purpose, passion, and unlimited possibilities, you can't you can't write out a check and buy that. And very often we get hung up on the material aspects of things. So if you're in a business, let's just say you're a C-suite executive, nothing wrong with that. And that's how you identify yourself is I'm this C-suite executive and I go to work every day and I, jump on the hamster wheel. But at the end of the day, you're feeling drained and depleted. That is, even though you might be, earning a very healthy 6 or 7 figure income, you don't feel that sense of true wealth where you don't feel um, nurtured, I guess, from the inside. I guess that might
Yeah.
be the word to use. I don't know if that's the right word to use. But when you get that sense of fulfillment and you feel like you're living your purpose, it doesn't make any difference what you're doing for whether it's work or volunteer work or whatever. When you have that feeling inside you, you can't put a price tag on it. That is the feeling of true wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that because I think when we hear the word true wealth, instinctively we think about money. What is it
Right.
that I can do to get more money, to expand my business, to grow, da da da. But I love the aspect of what you're coming in here with. It's not about the money, it's about the things that money can't buy.
Exactly,
That's the key.
exactly. And for me personally, it took me a long time to get to that point to really put all that together. I mean, I could help other people do it, but it's different when you're trying to do it on yourself.
Yeah.
We have a tendency as humans to wear blinders all the time. And that's why we need other people to be a sounding board, to be that coach, if you will, to draw out of us what it is that we really want.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do it on yourself.
Exactly, exactly. And I can speak for myself because I'm a business coach, but so
Right,
hard to take my own advice, which is why I have my own business coach. We
right,
always need that person to kind of help us just look at things from a different perspective, which is equally what you do for your clients. And I've heard so
right. I
many
mean, and
amazing
it's so
stories.
interesting because they can't see the forest for the trees, and I'm no
Yeah,
different. So, like you, I have a business coach, and I need that person to simplify things, just to say, well, what if you look at it this way? Or even just asking me the question, what if that was possible?
yeah.
Often I get into that limiting belief mindset for myself and forget that there really is no limit unless we set it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you mentioned one thing earlier on a little bit about, the kind of clients that you work with, those people who are at crossroads, who are just feeling like life is chaotic, it's overwhelming, I'm reaching burnout. You've got 3 easy strategies that can help us to go from just juggling this chaos to making it so much more easy for us to manage our life, business, whatever that might be. What are those 3 strategies?
Well, the first strategy that and I did all of these on myself, so I eat at my own restaurant, so to speak. The first one is an exercise that I call keep, stop, start.
Mhm.
So you just get out a simple yellow pad or a piece of paper. I do have a form that I've created, and it's just you write down the word keep and you just brain dump what are all the things that I want to keep in my life. And there's no contest here. It doesn't make any difference how long or short the list is, but really give it some thought, not just from a business perspective, but from a personal perspective. I actually do 2 separate ones. I do one for business, one for personal. I find that easier. And then I go, the next thing is what do I want to stop doing? Again, business and personal. And what do I want to start doing? And when I look at the list, when I looked at this list and did this, the thing I wanted to stop was managing assets. And when I figured out how much time I put into that, not only the time, Henriette, but it's also when you're doing something that is exhausting, when you're doing something that is really not a right fit for you, it's like a right-handed person trying to write with the left hand. It never feels like a fit. You're always struggling and things take you longer than they should. And I was good at it. I am good at it, but it just wasn't my passion.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
I can talk to somebody, they can tell me what's going on in their life. I can pick up a problem in like less than a minute and give them guidance on it.
Yeah. I love that. And the keep, stop, start list that you've got there. I find that it almost, when we take this and do this exercise, it's almost like we give ourselves permission in a way as
Yes.
well
Hmm.
to continue doing the things that we feel is aligned with us, to stop doing the things that we don't like or want to do anymore. And then also to go like, what are those things that I really want to start? Really want
Hmm.
to look into. So it's kind of like a way of giving yourself permission to take certain actions.
It is. And when you have the start list, nature abhors a vacuum. So if magic wand, perfect world, wave your magic wand and all the things you want to stop doing suddenly disappear. You have a gap.
Mm,
And unless you fill that gap, either by with the keep list doing more of the keep list or the start list, you're going to find yourself back in the pattern of doing the things you want to stop.
yeah. Yeah.
So the second piece of that, after you do that exercise, is okay, I've got my list. Now what? The things that you want to keep doing, that's fine. That doesn't, you just keep doing that. But when you look at the stop list, you really need to figure out, how do I unwind this? How do I stop doing whatever the thing is? Do I delegate it? Is it something that really isn't necessary and I can just make it disappear very easily? Or what else do I have to do in order to make that task go away? And once you figure that out, the next piece is you have to take action on that. And the faster you take action on it, the better. It's like pulling off a Band-Aid. You really
Yeah.
need to do that very quickly and then replace it very quickly with something either you want to keep doing more of or something you want to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to say, when the first time I heard about this was through one of your workshops when you spoke about it. And I actually implemented it myself in the
Oh,
beginning of
good.
the year. And I did it and I sat down with my list. And it was actually really thrilling. It was such a
Hmm.
thrilling exercise to do. So highly encourage everybody listening to this. If you haven't sat down and done something like that, especially because we're now in the beginning, in the first start of the year, by all means, go out and do it because it's going to be very invigorating.
It is,
Now,
and I usually do it 3 or 4 times a year,
oh,
especially
even
if I
better.
feel like I'm slipping off the track a little bit. I take the last 2 weeks of the year, and that's like between Christmas and New Year's. So there's the first week I'm just getting ready for Christmas. I'm wrapping gifts, I'm doing whatever I have to do, cooking or whatever. But then right after Christmas and before New Year, that's my time.
Yeah,
And I will take a day, close the door, do the keep, stop, start exercise. Then the next day, I'll go through that stop list and make a plan for how am I going to stop doing whatever is on that list.
yeah,
And then the start list, I look at, okay, like for me, one of the things I wanted to start doing was becoming fluent in Italian, the language, speaking the language. So how do I do that? I just went online, I looked for different programs, and I bought one of the programs. And then I have to put in my calendar, 30 minutes a day or an hour a day listening to the recordings or, following the little course that I
yeah,
purchased. So
yeah,
sometimes it's so simple, it's ridiculous. And I think when something is simple, Henriette, we almost discount it. Like
yeah, it's true.
we have this thing in our head that everything has to be complicated, and it absolutely does not. The simpler you make things, the better.
Yeah, speaking my language. Now, that's interesting that you're saying that because I think the other thing that a lot of people then focus on is they go and sit down and go, oh my gosh, I need to do goal planning. Especially business owners, I need to plan my
Hmm.
goals. I need to sit down at the end of the year, beginning of the year. I need to focus on this. And people start almost frantically putting
Yep,
down goals. But you
right.
say from your experience that there's one skill that you
Yes.
feel people just need to zone in on to make this a
Yep.
little bit easier. What would that
A
be?
lot easier. So, and this again, I learned this the hard way, but once I mastered this, my life changed dramatically. So, going through your keep, stop, start, you're looking at your stop things and what is the number one thing on that list that you need to stop doing, or the number
Mm,
one thing you need to change, fix, change, stop, whatever way you want to look at it. And you pick that one thing and that's your goal. is making that one thing happen. So for me, it was looking at my list, it was how do I unwind being the asset manager? What do I need to do? Now, in my field, it's not like if you worked in a hospital and you were a nurse and you decided you didn't want to be a nurse anymore. You tell the HR person you clock out on your last day and that's the end of it. The patients aren't going to follow you. But when you're in my field, you really have a responsibility to people who have entrusted you with their present and future livelihood. So I had to find a replacement. That meant, gathering the information about my book of business, finding a buyer, working out a plan with that buyer. That took me about a year just to do that. But once I did that, everything else fell into place because I released a huge amount of time that I was spending. And it meant the picture in the background here, that's Taormina, Sicily. I don't know if you've ever been to Sicily, but that was a dream of mine, was to visit my family's homeland. I would not have achieved that dream if it weren't for being, selling the business that I know, because I never felt like I could just go away. I worked alone. I was a solo practitioner. I did have a virtual assistant. But if something happened that somebody needed to get at their money, or they had a question, or they needed to place a trade or do something regarding their finances, if I'm not in the country, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And even though I had somewhat of a backup plan, I mean, I always have to have a backup plan. Most of the time when somebody needed something, they just thought to call me. And if I wasn't there, they might have had a panic attack. So not having that on my shoulders anymore basically gave me my life back.
Yeah.
And I was able to take that trip. I was able to do home repairs, things that I've been putting off for years because I just didn't have the time. I couldn't even focus on it. That it was amazing to me that just finding that one goal, and I just said, I'm just going to do this one thing instead of having that list of 50 goals like I always did. And I am good at accomplishing goals, but it was so exhausting just looking at the list that to
Yeah.
just have that one thing, that was something I could get excited about that. And that's what happened. It's like I only have to do this one thing. I just kind of put the blinders on for everything else. And I knew as I was working toward that, I could get really excited about it and I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And once that all came to fruition, one of the first things I did was book this trip.
And I love that because I think it's true what you're saying. When we have that to-do list, as everybody calls it, you have actually a bunch of stuff there that you feel this is goals that I need to achieve. And it just feels like a never-ending to-do list that you can just not get through. But I love the
Right.
fact that you said if you look at your list, your keep, stop, start, I'm going to say it correct, it makes it so much easier because there you've already kind of mitigated some of the things that you want to either keep doing or stop doing or start doing. And then choosing
Right.
from that list the one thing that really matters to you the most, that becomes your
Right.
goal. I love that.
That
Makes it so
becomes
much
the goal. You
easier.
just have that one goal because
Yeah.
that's the one that's really going to move the needle. And you feel that as soon as you really start diving into it. At least I did. And when I've done this with other clients, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That they know that once they see that momentum, they
Yeah.
feel that energy. Energy is powerful. And you give, it's really like a gift that you're giving to yourself because you're giving yourself so much energy. Everything has energy, like pieces of paper on your desk, thoughts in your head, the things that are bogging you down. You're thinking about them and you don't even realize it. So when you can release that and just focus,
Yes.
what you can accomplish is just amazing.
I know. I know. And I've seen it happen time and time again, and I've
Yeah,
experienced it myself.
yeah. But I don't know why we forget, but we do. We tend to forget that this is how easy it is.
Yeah. I think the forgetting is because we constantly get bombarded by the external noise. We're
You're right.
sucked in by noise all the
Yep.
time. And the noise stops us from focusing, and
Mm-hmm.
we get distracted. We
Yeah.
start questioning our own abilities.
Right.
But what
Right.
you've said here, it just helps maintain that focus. And when you're focused and you put the blinders on,
Yeah.
you take out the noise, and then
You
you will
do,
see you
you
can
cut out
achieve
the
it.
noise. And I think it's also, I mean, I think part of the noise too is society.
Yeah.
It's like expectation. So if you are that C-suite executive and you're at the top of your game, but you're not happy, how can I not be happy? I've got this great job. And if you start talking to certain people about it, they think you've lost your mind. Like
Mm,
you're ungrateful. You've got this great job. You've worked for this your whole life and now you don't want it. So you start, that self-doubt kicks in and then you don't know which way is up.
yeah.
It's really very frustrating. And
Yeah.
that just compounds the problem.
I know. But it also comes back down to habits. You know,
Hmm.
if you are so used to doing something over and over again, you've created a habit. And we know with habits, it becomes automated, meaning that
Right,
it is easy. You do not
right,
have to think about it.
right.
But the problem is if you're stuck in an old habit, you're not going to work towards a goal. You're not going to be focused. You're not going to get what it is that you want. So it's about changing that habit. And you've got an ultimate guide, a
Yes, I
step-by-step
do.
process to help people a little bit just shift, create those new habits. What is
Right.
that like?
Well, that is a lot of the tools that we've been talking about, but it's also staying laser focused. So one of the things that I have in that guide is a one-page planner. So
Mm,
on one page, and I've bought, you name it, if it's a planner, I've bought it over the last 20 something years, whether it's the Franklin Covey planners or all the different brands, you name it, I've tried them all. And one thing that I found is that they're so busy that for me, now everyone's different, but for me, I found that they're so busy that they're distracting.
yeah.
So what I did was I took some time and I looked at the planner that I had and I pulled out a few other ones and I said, what is like the best of? If I look at these planners and I were to cobble out what are the best tools on these planners. So we've got a day timer, what's my schedule for the day? What are things that I have to get done today? And what's an area like ideas that I don't want to lose? So we're in my little brain dump. So what I did was I took one piece of paper, in the US it's 8.5 by 11. On one column I have my day, every 30 minutes I've got my schedule. Then on the right of that I have a box that I just list out 6 things that have to get done today. So I call it my 6 important things. And then underneath that I have a place for 5 brilliant ideas, like 5 things that will move the needle. And that's it. And every day I make a new one. So I fill it out, whatever needs to be done for the day. I also have a section at the top that's my mission.
Mm-hmm.
So that keeps me focused. Like, why is it that I want to do this? What is my end goal? And for me, it's creating true wealth so that I have time with my grandchildren, time with my family, create epic memories, and have the resources to do so. So when I look
Yeah.
at that, that reminds me of why I'm doing this and keeping it as simple as possible. It takes me about 5, maybe 10 minutes to fill it out every day.
Yeah.
Or I can do it the night before. Sometimes I'll do it the night before if I finish up early and I'll say, oh, let me jot these things down. And it has really helped in just having a one piece of paper on my desk. I don't have this big thick planner anymore. I've just get this one thing.
Yeah, I love that because, like you, I'm very much the same. Um, I mean, one of the worst things I used to do is post-it notes. Having post-its
Yes,
all over my screen,
right,
all over
right.
my desk. Oh my gosh, it drove me mental and I constantly
Yep,
felt overwhelmed. And then
yep.
I realized that I'm going to take down all the post-it notes and I put a rule down for myself. I'm not allowed to have more than 2 post-it notes on my desk.
Hmm.
And at the end of every day, whatever I've written down, either as a to jog my memory or as a reminder, whatever is on that post-it note, either if it's not done, it immediately goes into my calendar. And
Yep.
I've set a date as to when I'm going to action this. And I don't have a to-do list because, again, the same like the post-it notes, to-do list for me, it is overwhelming. For other
Yes,
people, they love them. And if it works for you, go for it. But for me,
right.
oh, completely the opposite. So I'm like you, I need one pager.
Right. And for me, like if I had a big long to-do list, I'd get discouraged if I
Yeah.
didn't have everything checked off. I have a significant number of things checked off. And one of the things that an exercise that I've been doing, I got this from when I did the Success Principles coaching with Jack Canfield. He calls it messes and incompletes.
Mm.
And it's a little booklet, which I think is a little cumbersome. So keep it simple. I whittled it all down to one page.
Yeah.
And it's just a list of what are things that you have not finished, that are incomplete. And it could be, I didn't plan date night, or, it could be anything from the simplest thing to something more complex. So my list, share it with you. My list only had 4 things on it
Mm.
that were
Very
really
good.
like, what are my priorities? What are important? And one of them was I had a doorknob that was loose, that every day I'd go, open the door and then I say, oh, I gotta fix this doorknob. So that information's in the back of your mind. Then I had just painted the master bedroom, and I still had the pictures on the floor. Now the bedroom got painted before Thanksgiving and the pictures are still on the floor. And I had a curtain that needed to be hung up. So all of these tasks took me about an hour, but
Yeah.
for months they've been stored in my head. So I wrote them down, got them done. I said, today, got out of bed on Saturday morning. I said, today is the day. I am doing
Yes.
these things. I don't care if I get hit by a bus. I'm finding a way to get these things done.
Yeah.
And I did. And I felt like Wonder Woman by the time I was through. And I'm not exaggerating. It didn't even take me an hour. And I was like, I can't believe I put off all of these stupid little tasks. I was looking at the curtain on the curtain rod, waiting to be hung up. As an example, I mean, I looked at that thing for months. Why I didn't just do it, I don't know. But every time I'd look at it and say, oh, I gotta hang that up. And it would still be sitting there. And the things, and then the pictures on the floor. Oh, I've got to hang those up. I've got to, get those ready to go back on the wall. Drive myself cuckoo. But I got it all done.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, not just for me, but everybody listening here in the audience is going, yep, that's me. I've got so many little nitty gritty things that I walk past every day that I feel I need to do. And I'm going, oh, got to do that. Got to sort that out. Got to do that. But we just never do it. And I love
Right.
that because it comes back down to just making a plan, put it
Yeah.
in, put the time in, decide to do it, get it done. And the relief once
The
it's
relief
done.
is amazing.
I
It's
know.
like cleaning out your junk drawer. It's like everywhere you look, everything looks like a junk drawer. And when you get that all squared away, it's just such an amazing feeling.
I know. And I think everybody can resonate with that because we've all had that where there's just one thing that we feel we keep on putting off, putting off, putting off. Finally, when it's done, you feel like Wonder Woman. So, yeah. And in addition, just to come back to everything that you've shared with us, it comes back to that one thing in the beginning. What
Hmm.
is your focus?
Right,
What do you want to focus on? Sort it out, work on it.
right.
And it can be a bunch of little things, it can be one main thing, but I think it just comes back to focusing. And it comes back also to once you focus on something, you're going to find that the energy is going to come your way and you're going to sort it through, you're going to work towards it, you're going to achieve it. But it all comes
Right.
back just naturally to the focusing part, which I love.
And that's the habit that you need to form.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to do 50 things a day. If you made a habit of doing one thing, finish one thing, whatever that one thing is, I don't care if it takes you 30 seconds, but just doing that, disciplining yourself to do that is very energizing. Not only does it build your energy, but it builds your confidence.
Yeah.
Because if you can discipline yourself to do that, you can discipline yourself to do almost anything.
Yeah. I love this. I love this conversation. And I think everybody here listening is just making so many notes about just feeling like they're taking the reins back into their life,
Yes,
into
yes,
business, taking the control. And for those of you listening, I mean, this is where I love talking to Therese about this because she's got so much knowledge and she's got a fabulous, fabulous workshop where she dives into this quite a fair bit more. But maybe you're at this point now where you're thinking, this is amazing, I'm going to do this. Yes, yes, yes. But you quickly get discouraged, meaning you're falling back into your old habits again. My suggestion is that you look at Therese's workshop and you go and sign up for it because it is a life changer if you look at things from a different perspective. And if you want to take it one step further, my suggestion is to go and have a conversation with Therese, especially if you're at that crossroads and you're feeling overwhelmed, burned out, you're not quite sure what you're passionate about anymore. then she's the lady you need to talk about. But Therese, tell us a little bit about the workshop. What is it the workshop specifically about? And then obviously I'll make reference to the show notes so people can go and sign up for it there.
Thank you. Yeah, the name of the workshop is Beyond the Money, How to Create True Wealth. So it's going through all of these different exercises so that you can identify what true wealth means for you.
Yeah.
And I go into some of my past. The woman who was my inspiration, my mentor, was my father's mother, my paternal grandmother. She was born in Sicily, and I think that, and I know that's one of the reasons why I was so insistent I had to walk in her footsteps. And I think I shared with you the last time we spoke
Yeah.
that I had taken this photograph, and it's actually the backdrop, another backdrop that I use on another software program. But this particular photograph, when I was taking it, I had that deja vu feeling.
Mm,
And I said, I feel like I've been here before. And then it dawned on me that I had a photograph of her standing under that same tree that I was taking a picture of.
that's beautiful.
So the connection is very deep. That, and I know that's what got me into what I do. You know, I've seen women over my lifetime, especially during the 50s, where women didn't go back to work after the war. It was, you know, most women stayed home. And then they became very dependent on their husbands. So
Mm,
the husbands kind of lorded it over them because they were the breadwinner and, you know, wanted to control everything. And if the marriage went south, very often they didn't know how they could get out of that marriage because they didn't know how they could take care of themselves. And I
mm,
saw that frequently, and it was heartbreaking. Now, as a grown woman looking back on it, it's saying, oh my God, what a horrible way to live. But even today, I see women who are considering divorce, and
mm,
even though they're working and they have a career, because it's a huge change, they're unsure of how are they going to make all of this work, how are they going to manage all of this. So they're at crossroads. Could be from a marital point of view, it could be from a career point of view, it could be almost anything. But whenever we're faced with these big decisions, it becomes challenging, even for, it doesn't matter how smart you are or how savvy or anything, but when we're faced with these big life decisions, it's very challenging to figure it all out by yourself.
yeah.
And that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just comes back full circle to what we shared in the beginning is what does true wealth mean to you? But then if you don't have that perspective, you get somebody like Therese on board in order to help you and let you look at it from a different perspective. Because sometimes you can't even see yourself what it is that you need to do. And she's got so much knowledge and experience in order to help you.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I've really been blessed with the people that I've been able to help.
Yeah.
I have the story of one of my recent clients on my website. Her name was Tony, and she came to me during COVID. And COVID really was a trigger for a lot of people. I don't know how much of a trigger it was in the UK, but in the US, when we were on lockdown and
Yeah.
couldn't do anything, it was really eye-opening to how quickly your life can change. And this woman came to me single, and she's never married, and she said, you know, she feels like she's worked her whole life, which she had, and she took care of both of her parents, and both of her parents had recently passed. And she wanted to know, like, what's next for me? And she decided that she didn't want to work forever, but she wasn't sure if she had saved enough money in order to retire. So I said to her, well, you know, enough money is different for everyone. It depends on what you want to do. So we, you know, worked together. She sorted out exactly what an ideal retirement would look like. I helped her figure out what that would cost, and come to find out she had more than enough money, which she didn't know what enough money was. So until we did the math, she had no idea. So she put a pin in that, and she said, you know, whatever, I think it was April 1st or March 31st. And she said, a year from today, I'm going to retire. I said, okay, great. So we put the plan in place. Sure enough, true to her word, she retired. And she traveled and did some remodeling on her home and did all the things that she wanted to do. But the sad thing was, she only survived 2 more years. She didn't know she had, you know, some sort of an illness, and passed away. And her brother called me. He had found my business card, and he also found the plan that I put together for her. And he wanted to let me know what had happened. And I said, oh, I was heartbroken. And I said, well, did she get to do the things that we talked about? He said, yep, she had the list and she checked off the list of all
That's
the things that we
incredible.
planned. He said she had a beautiful retirement. It was sad that it wasn't longer, but she thoroughly enjoyed herself. And he said if she hadn't worked with you, meaning me, or probably somebody like me, she'd probably still be working.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have known that she could afford to quit.
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful story. And it just shows you that if you have those plans in place and you know what it is that you're working towards in order to have true wealth, not just in a
Hmm.
money asset, in a life asset, things
Right.
will change and you will actually make a huge difference for yourself personally, but also business wise, depending on which direction you want to go, because they both interlink anyway. Oh my gosh, Therese, I love this conversation and I love hearing all of these amazing things about how you help your clients. But in particular, by just sharing this with the audience, I think everybody feels a little bit more like, yeah, I can do this, I don't just have to stay stuck in this position. I can go out there, I can do and become incredible things.
Hmm.
And even if it's just having a conversation with yourself. So, for those of you listening, as mentioned, by all means, go and check out Therese's next workshop, sign up for it. It might just inspire you in more ways than you would have ever thought possible. If you want to take it one step further, just reach out to Therese. Connect with her on social media, connect with her on LinkedIn, on her website, and have a conversation with her, because it might just be that one conversation you needed in order to see what it is that you can actually accomplish and where you can go from here. So with all of that, make sure to go down to the show notes. All the links to connect with Therese is there, and obviously to go and sign up for her next workshop as well. Therese, thank you so much again for an amazing conversation, as always. And I appreciate your time and sharing everything here with everybody. I wish you
Oh,
all
this
of the
was so much
best.
fun. Thank you. You
Amazing.
too.